Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for AnimeUproar, and today I will be breaking down the latest shocking chapter in the MHA manga. The hero killer Stain ambushes and confronts All Might at knife point. Or I guess I should say sword point, but either way, it was crazy. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, Stain has top secret information about the villains from Tartarus. There is a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our Boku no Hero videos and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to the channel, or maybe you watch the channel regularly, but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, it would really help support the channel if you would take the time to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. Finally, this video will of course contain Boku no Hero manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Now, even though the previous chapter was largely an optimistic one, the final panel showed a somber-looking All Might standing out in the rain. The latest chapter picks up with All Might driving alone through that same rain. He is going to check on some of those anti-hero protesters who are refusing to evacuate into a shelter. Presumably, these are the people who stopped trusting the heroes and who decided to take their safety into their own hands by forming various civilian militias. These guys have no interest in leaving their homes and moving into shelters controlled by the heroes, since they don't believe that the heroes have what it takes to keep them safe. With that said, heroes like All Might still feel responsible for protecting everyone, including these people. And because they refused to evacuate, they are more vulnerable than anyone else to villain attacks. As he's driving, All Might is thinking about Deku, about how he made a promise to Inko that he would protect Deku, and yet Deku decided to go off on his own and leave All Might behind. I mean, he even left that freaking bento box, which was not cool, and then Deku almost got himself killed before his classmates came to his rescue. And of course, All Might feels terrible because he wasn't there to help him. This is something that weighs heavily on All Might's shoulders, especially since he knows that even if he was there, he probably wouldn't have been able to do much against the villain. In his current physical state, the Small Might form, as we call it, there isn't much that All Might can do, even if he wanted to. Eventually, All Might finds himself in that same square where Deku had faced the villain dictator, and then after that, his own classmates. All Might sees Deku's disheveled mask on the ground, and so he picks up the mask and looks upon the large statue of All Might that is located in the square. The statue that now has a sign over it that reads, "I am not here." All Might again thinks about the fact that he couldn't even protect his own student, Deku, and he says to the statue, and also to himself, that he, All Might, is just dragging everyone down. This is again where those unrealistic standards that I mentioned many times before come into play. In the past, All Might was the symbol of peace, the symbol of the hero society itself. As long as All Might was around, everyone was fine because they knew that this incredibly strong hero was always watching and he would do anything to protect the people. All Might had set such an insanely high standard for heroes that people started relying on them too much. They relied on heroes to solve all of their problems, heroes became celebrities, and many of the heroes became more interested in money and fame than actual heroics. After all, if All Might is always there to save the day when things get really bad, then do other heroes really need to worry about the danger and sacrifice aspect of being a hero? All Might will take care of all the real problems while other lesser known heroes can just focus on money and fame. Obviously, this was not the mindset of every hero, but as we saw in the previous arc, many heroes were fair-weather heroes, and when things got bad, they bailed. Once All Might could no longer live up to those impossible standards that he himself had set, the hero society collapsed pretty quickly, and All Might is now left wondering whether he is partially to blame for all of it. But All Might's train of thought is soon interrupted by a sword-wielding maniac who holds a blade up to his face. That maniac is none other than the hero killer Stain, and it seems that he heard Toshinori's previous comment about All Might dragging people down. This comment straight up triggered Stain, and with a crazy look in his eyes, he demands that this skinny blonde man in front of him take back what he said about All Might. Stain, of course, doesn't realize that he is speaking to All Might himself, or at least that's what Stain wants us to believe. As I said, Toshinori Yagi is currently in his Small Might form, and this is a form that Stain doesn't necessarily recognize. Stain seems to think that this man is just some random dude insulting the greatest hero of all time, and he refuses to stand by and allow that to happen. Toshinori explains that a lot has changed since Stain had gone to prison, and he reveals that he is in fact All Might. Stain is shocked by this and he refuses to believe it at first, but Toshinori demonstrates that he is All Might by briefly transforming back into his Tall Might form. And yet, Stain still refuses to believe that this thin, frail man is the larger-than-life hero whom he respects so much. Stain proclaims that this square where All Might's statue stands is sacred ground built to honor true heroes, so how dare this weak fake try to impersonate the greatest hero? And Toshinori actually agrees that he is a fake in a way. He spent his entire life trying to make a difference and trying to help those who were powerless, but in the end he himself ended up powerless. He couldn't even protect his own student despite making a promise to his mother, not to mention the fact that he couldn't stop the collapse of the entire hero society. All Might laments the fact that he keeps getting further and further away from the hero he once was, but Stain refuses to listen. Stain seems to be on the verge of having a mental breakdown just listening to All Might sounding so hopeless and defeated, and this kind of reminds me of Deku. Deku would probably be just as shocked as Stain if he heard his idol talking this way. Which is interesting in a way. Deku and Stain are two very different people, and yet they do share some similar ideals. And at the end of the day, they are both All Might fanboys. Stain then grabs All Might, but he doesn't grab him in a violent or threatening way. He grabs him in order to show him a lone woman walking up to the All Might statue. The woman uses her quirk to climb the statue and take down the sign which says, "I am not here." Stain explains that every single day this woman comes here to clean the statue from any vandalism conducted by the anti-hero protesters. Even though this is a dangerous task, this area is not safe anymore, and those who keep vandalizing the statue could attack her at any moment, the woman still risks her life every day to defend the legacy of All Might. Toshinori is surprised by this. He doesn't know why this woman would bother risking her life for some statue. But Stain explains that she is the last person All Might had saved back during the Kamino incident. She had been stuck under some rubble, and she would have died if All Might hadn't defeated All for One in time for her to be rescued. As Toshinori looks on in stunned silence, Stain goes into a crazed rant about how All Might always kept a smile on his face and always protected the people. This had nothing to do with his quirk. The man known as All Might had unwavering determination and dedicated his entire life to preserve peace. Stain says that as he is now, Toshinori can't even hold a candle to All Might, but it's not over yet. That woman who cleans the statue every day is proof that the cinders which All Might left behind continue to burn within those who followed in his footsteps. These cinders are now forming into a great fire as all of Class 1A unites under the same banner that All Might had once raised. And that flame must not be allowed to die. They must stoke it no matter how difficult the situation becomes. This speech is actually pretty nuts when you think about it. The crazed villain known as Stain, a man who has murdered dozens of heroes, is basically giving All Might a pep talk and reminding him that Deku and Class 1A are now carrying the torch that he had passed to them. Stain, the hero killer, is praising the virtues of the heroes and telling All Might not to give up. This is not the kind of conversation that Toshinori was expecting to have today, or any other day. As he continues to look at that woman who is cleaning the statue, Toshinori sheds a tear. Stain turns to walk away, and as he leaves, he tells Toshinori that a hero exists for the sake of others, and while he still doesn't want to admit that this man is really All Might, he tells him that if he is a true hero, then he will use the information that Stain had gathered from Tartarus. We then see that Stain left a piece of paper on the ground, a piece of paper that he wants Toshinori to read. Stain then invites All Might to one day come and end him, the villain who had murdered 40 heroes. It's almost like Stain is trying to encourage All Might by saying that once the villain crisis is over and Japan is saved, he can come and settle the score with him as well. The final words that come out of Stain's mouth are, "Everything is for the sake of a just society," and as the rain finally stops, All Might's tears continue to flow down his cheeks, and that is how the chapter ends. Wow, what an unexpected emotional moment. A depressed and powerless All Might getting a motivational speech from a villain who killed dozens of heroes. And no matter what you think of Stain, the man was spitting. And the interesting thing about Stain here is that he seems to be partially in denial that his hero All Might is now this weak and sad man known as Toshinori Yagi, and yet another part of Stain clearly knows that this is All Might. If he didn't believe that this was him, what would be the point of that motivational speech? What would be the point of leaving this random man that note? Stain knows that this is All Might, even if he doesn't want to admit it, and that makes this whole situation even more emotional and impactful. Stain wants Toshinori to keep struggling and pushing forward so that he can once again live up to the legacy of All Might. And then we have that note. As of the end of the chapter, we have no idea what the note says. All we know is that Stain got some valuable information from Tartarus and that he wants the heroes to have it. But what could that information be? Is it about a traitor who made the prison break possible? Is it about the prisoners who escaped and their quirks? Is it something else entirely? Man, Stain is such a fascinating character and one of my favorite characters in the entire story. I loved seeing this confrontation, and I really hope that we get to see more of Stain because he is just so interesting. I mean, he's clearly not a good person, and clearly he does horrible things, and yet he does have some ideals that we can totally relate to, and he even shares some of the same ideals as our heroes, Deku and All Might. Obviously, Stain also has other warped ideals that the heroes don't share, but still, it's so interesting to think about Stain's role in the story going forward. Ever since the Tartarus prison break, I've been predicting that Stain will fight on the side of the heroes against the villains. And this is our first hint that he is helping the heroes. He just passed on some valuable intel about the villains to All Might, and I can't wait to find out more about that note. Let me know what you guys think. How awesome is Stain as a character, and what secret information did he just pass on to All Might? Will Stain play an important role in the looming final showdown against the villains? Will he and Deku start a new All Might fan club when this is all over? Don't forget to share your feedback down in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If you enjoy our Boku no Hero videos and you want to see more, you know what to do. Just leave a quick like. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot. And if you're new to AnimeUproar, or maybe you watch our videos but you just haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You really have to go through the trouble of subscribing, hitting the bell, and then selecting that option that says all. If you don't do that, you're still gonna miss a ton of our videos even if you are subscribed. It's just how YouTube works. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. I want to give a quick thank you to all of our AnimeUproar patrons who make videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Alpha Sigma. He is an absolute mad lad and disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, the ones who rise above all other clans, including Ingrata, Pate Hefa, Aljatal, Hinokami and Water, The Toasted Chi, The Spike, Dylan Isador, Spidey Life Tanel, Tungsten Tarkus, Baked Buddhist, and Monkey D. Quilly. Finally, thank you to all of our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, the Red-Haired Raven, Angel Cruz, Rathuin Deora, Very Gucci, Alicia Akhter, Bonnie Parks, Joanne Garcia, Ted No Ted, Fatboy Games, Corey McGowan, and Soul Ray Slice and Dice. If you enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value to you, consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a single dollar will give you access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, and your name will appear in our videos, along with these legendary people. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!